Welcome to session 4. I'm Dr. Tracy. In the last two sessions, we talked about the component of self-awareness as part of our EQ. In this session, we'll focus on the component of empathy and how our perception influences our capacity to be empathetic. Empathy is an important aspect of emotional intelligence. Having empathy means being able to understand other people's emotions. And perception is an important part of that empathy. Our perception is how we experience the world. This is different for each and every one of us because it's based upon many different factors. It's our upbringing, our family dynamics, our belief systems, morals, values, our culture, and basically the totality of all of our past experiences. This is why we all view things differently. This makes life a very subjective experience. What could feel good to me may feel bad for you. What could look pretty to me could look ugly to you. It's all in the eyes of the beholder. Having emotional intelligence means that we have an understanding that our experience isn't the only experience, and that we all experience things differently. To take it another step further, having high emotional intelligence means being able to understand the perceptions of others from their point of view, like being able to put ourselves in other people's shoes. Our first perception of someone else's experience is usually how we would feel if the same thing happened to us. Now, that's a natural human instinct. So it may take more of a conscious effort to imagine what it could feel like for another person. For example, you may have been elated to find out you were pregnant, but someone else could be terrified. You may have been devastated about your divorce while another person celebrates. You may be proud of yourself for that new promotion when someone else feels they don't deserve it. And as a psychologist, it could feel like judgment if I incorrectly assume how a client feels in a particular situation. And they might then even feel badly for not feeling the way they think they should feel. To be perceptive is to be able to accurately read or assess someone's emotional state. And it's not as straightforward as being able to tell if someone is happy or sad. It's much more subtle than that. It's being able to tell if somebody is angry or just annoyed, or anxious or scared, or are they shy or guarded. These are subtle differences along the emotional continuum, but being able to read the difference would change how you interact with that person. If someone is annoyed, we know we can still try to talk and rationalize with them. But if they're angry, we may want to leave them alone and give them space. If someone is anxious, that tells me it could be an internal feeling that they may not even have control over. So the conversation would be more about meeting them where they're at and being more accepting, as opposed to someone who's feeling scared. That feeling of fear is usually caused by something external that they may be able to overcome with a little bit of support and encouragement, like when we talk our friends into doing something scary or risky. If someone is shy, you can help them by becoming welcoming and making more of an effort to make them feel comfortable and include them. However, if we do this to someone who's guarded, it could be where we're coming on too strongly for them, and it could actually feel very threatening. Having the perception to notice these slight differences in emotions involves being able to read or perceive a person's body language and communication. Professions that require a high IQ to be successful are like law enforcement officers and detectives more specifically, certainly mental health professionals, there's poker players, good salespeople, or anyone who conducts evaluations or interviews. I'm sure there's a lot more professions, but that's just off the top of my head. And people with a high EQ that are in other professions are usually going to be more successful than their colleagues who may have a lower EQ. Why is this? It's because being perceptive allows us to better interact, communicate, understand, and empathize with people. It makes us more relatable, more likable, and easier to talk to. And this makes us not only more successful at work, but in life in general by having deeper connections with people and stronger, healthier relationships. From both a psychological and spiritual perspective, our perception creates our reality. Psychologically, our senses take in information through our senses and our mind interprets it. And this creates our perception. Spiritually speaking, whatever we perceive becomes our reality, meaning we actually manifest our perception into reality. This means we have the power to create and change our own reality. There is no actual reality because my reality may not be your reality. We have to understand that reality is a matter of perspective. This is the concept behind optical illusions. If you want to test this out, I recommend searching the internet and just put in the search optical illusion pictures. And you should find a bunch of different examples. One of the more famous ones is one of an old woman and young woman. Now, you can also look this up on the internet by just putting in optical illusion of old woman and young woman, and this picture should pop up for you. If you try these, try to see the pictures from all of the different perspectives. So it's one picture, but looking at it one way looks like an old woman, and looking at it another way, you can see a young woman. Here's another matter of perspective. I started my career as a forensic psychologist, and we studied eyewitness testimony in court. What we found is that it can be surprisingly unreliable. In fact, if there were 10 people in a room that witnessed the same situation, there would most likely be 10 different perspectives of what happened. Not only that, but there would also be nearly 10 different perspectives of the descriptions of the people involved. To one person, the man was short. To another, he was tall. To one, he had blonde hair. To another, he had brown. His voice was soft or loud, or he ran or he walked. The differences are endless. Even the order of events can be different. He turned left, walked down the hall, and yelled at the lady behind the desk. Then somebody else says, no, he came in, yelled at everyone, and ran out to the left. I've even heard people say the person went out the front door, or another that they went out the back door. Well, that's because one person perceives the front and the back door differently. Are they lying? Maybe, but not necessarily. They could be telling the truth just from their perspective. It's important to take all of this into account when assessing our own perspectives and the perspectives of others. So for your therapy homework, practice making a conscious effort to put yourself in other people's shoes and try to imagine what they could be feeling. Another fun homework assignment is to kind of people watch and talk for the people. You're not hearing them, but you're just watching them from a distance and watching their nonverbal behavior and kind of talking for them and imagining what their situation is. We can also do the same thing if you have pets. My husband and I like to talk for our dogs, and we give them voices and very, different personalities. So that can be a lot of fun. All right, this is the end of session 4. In the next session, we'll discuss the importance of setting boundaries and what boundaries look like. Feel free to share your journey in the course classroom.